Call this regular meeting of Grand Forks City Council to order. First item of business is the adoption of the agenda. Can I have a motion? Councilor Doherty, Councilor Wires, all those in favor? I have minutes for 3 different meetings. August the 20th, public hearing minutes. Motion to adopt. Councilor Wires, Councilor Doherty. Sit back, Councilor Smith. Regular meeting minutes from August the 20th. A motion to adopt. Councilor Doherty, Councilor Wires. And August the 20th, primary committee meeting minutes and recommendations contained herein. Motion to adopt. Councilor Doherty, Councilor Smith. All those in favor? Carried. Which brings us quickly to Michael Trickey from Infrastructure Management. Welcome, Michael. Doing a PowerPoint presentation on the state and condition of Grand Forks roads. I would ask Michael to come on up and take the floor. I'm going to sit off to the side here to...
Worship. So we just go to the next one and I can launch right up. So in July, my team and I reviewed all the roads in Grand Forks, and this was in light of the asset management investment plan that you pulled together over the last few years and looking at what your priorities were. So to take a look at what roads should be ordered to be fixed up, what needed to be done with them. And while we're out there, we looked at condition, we looked at the safety of the roads, we looked at any drainage problems. We remeasured everything so that we remeasured everything. Is that working?
Just turn up the volume, maybe. Yeah, that one there.
So we. I need this to be taller. I'll just hold it. And we remeasured everything so that when you do come up with the design for your projects, you don't have to do a lot of extra road trips. What we did too, and I'm just going to show you this, we took everything we did and we put it, well, you'll get a report of it, a database, but we took all the field inspection sheets. So you'll have each road where it is geographically, and all of the information about that road, the condition of it, what we found out. So if you're ever wondering what it was, you have a record of it right here with all the measurements anyway. Then we looked at, did you need to rebuild it? This is the most expensive thing to do. Then resurface. Or was there something you could do to maintain it? I'm getting a complex. Is that right?
There you go.
There we go. Did you want me to start over?
No.
Next one, please. When we went out there again, we hit it in July, and I thought it was really good news. From what I'd heard about the roads in Grand Forks, I thought we were going to see a lot of need for reconstruction. We got here right after a rainstorm as well, so it gave me a chance to look at the drainage and talk to some of the people out and around because I wasn't finding a buildup of water. So we were able to get a good idea of the type of soils you have here. In most places, you've got a good rocky gravel soil, which is absorbing a lot of the water, which roads do not like. And we found that most of the problem wasn't with the base course or with the surface, not resurfacing. You just had a lot of cracks on the roads. It makes it look unsightly, but the ride of it, the physical, the structure of it was all there. So that's good news because these are low-dollar fixes for you. Very low-dollar fixes. And I'm going to show you the range of those fixes in a little bit. So overall, we rated everything. You have about 70 kilometers of road. 10 kilometers, I would say, in very good condition. You don't have to worry about that for some time. You have about 38 kilometers in fair condition, and that's going to give you a concern in about 5 to 10 years, but that's not bad. That's very typical. And you have about 22 kilometers that's in poor condition, and that's a mix of things that should be reconstructed or resurfaced. And if we go to the next one, please. There was some other things that we noticed when we were out there, and we'll put those recommendations in the report. There were some roads that really didn't have a lot of activity on them. And they were just very remote out. Some of them were paved. I would just say run those till they fail, and we'll put those in the report. You could decide whether you wanted to or not. But there wasn't a lot of traffic on them, if anything. There was almost not a house on many of these. Sometimes we would find it was still, the right-of-way was still just all grass. One point we found there was a lumber yard in one of your roads, and the mill. So we'll talk about, we found about 2.8 kilometers that we thought maybe you should consider transferring ownership of because you're really not using it. And we'll put that in the report. And that's good news because it means you just don't have to worry about those roads. So to the next one, I think that what you need to do with the roads, rather than spend a lot on reconstruction, that was our first fear, is I think that you need just to start a crack sealing program. It didn't look like any of the cracks have been sealed for about 7 years. Whenever you get to a paved road surface, it'll always go resurface, crack seal, patch, crack seal, resurface. And you get that cycle usually 3 times on a base. So we think if you crack sealed your roads and had a major program for them, you wouldn't have to resurface for quite a while. That'll save you some money that you can divert to your sanitary sewer system, your water system. Some will, and so what we found was, and here are the unit costs. If you reconstruct, it's going to cost you about $88 a square meter. So that's about almost $900,000 a kilometer. If you resurface, just change the surface rather than dig all the gravel up as well, it's going to cost you about $42. So that's about $400,000 per kilometer. But down to crack seal, it's only $2.95 per linear meter. So we found you should reconstruct about 3 kilometers, and there's about 9 kilometers that you should consider resurfacing. That's really good news. 12. Depending on what you find from your sewer investigations and pipeline, you may decide to reconstruct. If you find some pipe that needs replaced under here, you may decide to reconstruct it as well. You need to do that now, or consider doing it now, and the cost would be, and that would include construction administration and design, would cost you about $2.2 million, 3.4 for the resurfacing. And you'll see the crack sealing. To do 50 kilometers might cost you only about $350,000 to do 50 kilometers. And you know, that could get as high as 4.5. I don't think it'll be more than $500,000. But it's just that it hasn't been done for a long time. Once you do it, it may only be 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers a year ongoing after that, once you catch up with it. One of the, when I actually gave my first preliminary report to Cecile, I told her the good news of what we found here, and there was only about 12 kilometers that really worried me. So maybe you only need to, because we're looking at multi-utility projects, maybe you only needed to look at the sewer pipe, and that you put a little TD in there, a closed-circuit TD, to check the sewer pipe. Maybe you only need to do it around 12 kilometers. Again, would help you figure out what your priorities are to spend your boring money on your boring referendum. So if you did that, you could actually CCTV that for about $45,000 to figure it out, and that would knock it down from the original estimate, I think, of $200,000. You could then divert $150,000 down into crack sealing and do almost half your roads. That's a neat investment because that could save you, I did a rough estimate, that could probably save you about $10 million in resurfacing in the future. So not doing a cammering up here, which I think is you shouldn't do anyway because you don't have the money to fix it, but just do what you can in the short term, redivert it, is going to save you millions. So I was really excited when I found this stuff because I thought it would really help you, you know. I think it's such a good news story. Just before we go there too, what I found too, because we were looking at, we looked at the roads, but I also do sewer and water, whatever. Your sewer pipe in Grand Forks is made up of PVC, polyvinyl chloride, and vitreous clay. You couldn't ask for 2 better materials to build your system out of. Vitreous clay, the U.S. Corps of Engineers estimates vitreous clay will last 100 years. The Canadian Research Council for Construction says it's 132 years. And there was this guy I just loved in Seattle, Washington. In 208, he said it'll last 300 to 400 years. I think it was what the Romans were using. But the neat thing is, if it's constructed well and compacted well, it'll last as long as PVC. It's 60 years old. It could have half its life left. That's really good news. Where it was constructed well, if it wasn't compacted, it could have been crushed. But it's still very good news. I was really happy to hear that you had that, because a lot of people have ductile iron or asbestos cement, and that stuff is going to leave you in 50, 60 years. But you've got the right materials in the ground. It's also very environmentally friendly, right? It's just inert, compressed clay to almost glass, right? Okay, thank you. I tried to, this looks overwhelming, and I apologize for that, but I was trying to give it the visual effect here that really most of the things you see are pink, are roads you just have to crack seal. It's very typical for a road to crack. They just get expansion cracks, crack longitudinally, typically down the joint or on the side, or they'll crack transversely. And all you have to do is just blow the cracks out with compressed air, clean the dirt out, and just drop some hot asphalt in the back. And I believe your crews have now got a crack sealing machine, which is really great news for you. So most of the stuff was just crack sealing. There was some reconstruction. So you'll see all the different surface types and recommendations. If you were to look at I've got a bigger chart here to be able to see if you would come up. The reconstruction, if you're looking at the blues and the greens, you're seeing them mostly along 22nd by the hospital, and on, I think it's 60. I think it's Kettle 68th and along the river. So sort of a mix of reconstruction and resurfacing. Other than that, you have the base looked really good. I was really pleased. So we'll wrap up our report. Again, you'll get this inspection thing, so you'll always have that on record to see what was done, and you can actually mix and match and do another survey in another 7 years ago and see how things have changed. You get the database that you can mix and match and plan and be flexible about, around the amount of money you have. And then we'll put some recommendations in the report, give you different scenarios for what you need to do now, what you need to do in the 5 or maybe in the 10-year period. That's it.
Okay. Questions?
Yeah, this one is a question. The ones you got poured, those have to be redone, the base and everything, or you'll have that in the report?
Yes, if it's poor, there was a couple of pours where I thought you might resurface if you didn't decide to reconstruct and do everything. So when you do that cameraing, if it comes back where it says, the sewer down below is fine, I might not touch it. I might only take the surface off.
Oh, okay.
Rather than, if that pipe is good, because if you reconstruct it, you're taking anything that's down there out, utilities out. So it gives you some idea, but do that cameraing first on that 12 kilometers. Take a peek.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Further questions? Council? Cecile?
I just would like to say a few words, if I may, after you.
Yeah, certainly. Come on up.
That's okay, Councillor Smith has a question.
No.
No, I think you did.
No.
I just, this is my last chance, right, to say anything.
Uh-oh.
Thanks, Michael. And I really want to thank Michael. He's been very patient with us. I'd like to go back to the slide where we're talking dollars and cents. When Michael phoned and said, we've got to do all this crack sealing, quite frankly, I just saw it as a really good news. And he, as you mentioned, requested that we go back and look at other options. So I personally see this as a really good news story. It's a challenge. We went back and asked our consultants, and Mike came in last week and met with us, to say, give us different options on the CCTVing so that we don't have spent $200,000 now, and we could maybe look at spending it on crack sealing, because if you spend this money now wisely, there's different ways of getting to that fund to fund this project to save the millions of dollars down the road. I just want to make sure that council is really clear, because obviously I won't be here when this report comes around, but the options that we're looking at and that we will be bringing forward, and Wide certain Mike and I talked about it tonight, that this would work, because we said one of the options we wanted was to mirror the road condition assessment, because this is a known savings and a known risk, right? If you don't do this now, you've got a lot more at that price. That doesn't mean that if we don't do all the CCTVing that we're not then incurring some risk, because there still is a chance for something to blow up on the sanitary side. It's just that if you have a pipe blow up, it might cost, I don't know, $200,000. The last one we had cost $200,000 to repair, which is more expensive than repairing it now. But you also have to manage your risk and say, but we know we're saving $10 million down the road. So last year, you guys were really brave, and you started putting money aside in your 5-year plan for your preventative maintenance. I'm hoping to have an opportunity to work with Roxanne before I leave, because if you could take that $250,000 that you had planned on spending over the next 5 years, put it towards that, save $100,000 on doing your CCTV, knowing that you're taking a risk there, but you've got this done, and then it's paid for in the next 5 years. So you do it now, it's paying for itself in 5 years, and then you start your crack seal. So what I'm thrilled to see is that what we've been saying all along does work. If you've got a good preventive maintenance plan in place and you get on it and start doing it and do the right thing, it'll save you in the future. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Smith.
I just have one question, I guess. So if we CCTV just the 12 kilometers, isn't there a chance that there's bad pipes when they're good roads?
Yes, there is. And what we're saying is, this is what we need to talk about when we come back to you guys and say, we're not going to willy-nilly do this, we're going to be working on it in the next couple of weeks, but what we're saying is, you're going to have to manage the risk, regardless. And even if you CCTV the whole structure now, we just don't have enough money to do it anyway. So it's which risk are you going to manage? Yes, go ahead.
I think when you get to a multi-utility project, you're going to get about 3 kilometers maximum based on the volume. You got it at about 4.5 over the next 5 years. Whenever you go out and camera, so you've got a lot. And again, if you went out and you cambered everything, you wouldn't have the money to fix everything. I mean, right? So you know that you've got road problems here, and if you find pipe problems here, which I'm sure you will, because just typically the age of the road, the age of the pipe should be the same under it, because it's usually built at the same time. So even if you found it, you wouldn't be able to do anything about it. So when I was saying to Cecile, well, what a shame though, how could we redirect that extra money so that you actually could invest it in something good? So I thought, rather than camera everything, which you could, but before you used it, you'd have to redo it again in 10 years. So it wouldn't be money that you could see it break, but you think, I can't even fix it, and it would break, right? But you redirect the money down here onto crack sealing, you're saving about 5 years on your surface life, which over that volume is going to be about $10 million to $13 million. So they've actually taken that extra $150,000 and invested it, made a $13 million. So even if it broke at 200, you made $13 million. And so we were trying to make the best use of the money.
And to add to that, it's always best to do the $190,000 CCTV is sort of like, I keep saying it's a Cadillac. We can only afford a Chevy right now. So if we had $20 million to spend to redo everything, then that's what you would do. But we don't. So we have to look at the risk and we want to make sure we've committed to doing that for the last 3 years. We've been very, very open and upfront, and the plans change, and we're just going to keep coming with the newest and the greatest. certainly another thing for me that did it was finding out that data that is 10 years old is no longer usable. So when I spend money today on doing something that 10 years from now is going to be old, you're going to have to redo it anyway. Right?
Again, I guess I was just wondering if there is really that direct correlation between the age of the road and the age of the infrastructure, and if that's true in most cases.
I'm going to maybe let Mike step in, but my logic with that would be there's no way we would reconstruct and resurface without checking what's underneath anyway, because you don't want to go to all that and find out you didn't check. So that's where this makes sense to do,
Yeah.
right? That doesn't mean that there's no bad pipes under here.
Yeah.
We're just saying this is where we need to focus our big dollars. It's on these roads anyway, so maybe we can do something by just doing the CCTV. Now, if all of a sudden we have extra monies and decide that, oh, sure, we should check them off, then for sure down the road you need to do that as well. For now, we have to look at all of the assets, not just the roads and the pipes.
So this is a reasonable bite on dealing with our roads that we could do without a government grant at this point.
That's right.
Which is another big issue for us. We
Right.
want government money for these bigger projects.
Yeah.
Right. One of the things that I was asking Mike and was saying, well, maybe we should just look at this and not this, because we've got to reconstruct this anyway. So let's just resurface where we're doing it at $42 instead of $88, because the money always sings to me. But Mike explained to me that some of these will become a safety issue. So we're going to be charged with, this will cost us $5.6 million, and then when you add any work that you have to do with the pipes, as it is, you're going to have to prioritize these anyway, because it's really important to do these. So it's kind of like juggling that ball.
So when the report is all done, we'll have a good idea of where.
We're going to be able to do some recommendations.
We're getting recommendations.
On the roads.
On the
Yeah,
roads
on the
part.
roads,
And then, but before you would start this, you would probably start with this right away. This will be in a 2013 plan. You might even be able to bring something to you before the end of the year. I don't know if they have time this year anyway. But this would be your 2013. This would be looked at, but you'd also, before you start this, you would do your camera.
That's right.
Mark was doing it.
Yes, sure.
What I would do, and we do have the age of the pipes and the base course, so we're trying to marry those up. Some of those are a little bit inaccurate, but it's sort of ballpark. What we're thinking of is, in the short term, if you focused on just getting this done, redirects them to just crack sealing the road, you still have a program, another impending, about 36 kilometers of potential resurfacing. Some of it might be reconstruction anyway, depending on what you do here. Sitting at the 5 to 10 year frame. That's when I would save up for the bigger CT camera.
Don't move that all the back.
So I get an elbow, right?
Again, because your sanitary sewer system is 34 kilometers long.
Yeah.
Now you've got a 36 kilometers, so I think there's a good one-to-one match there. But maybe think about doing it in a few years. It gives you a chance to save a little for it. It's just an option, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And we should probably say that, because I said, okay, 350 is max, but it could be, and I need you to explain this to council, it could be as high as 500,000, because this is per lineal meter, depending on which way the cracks are running on the road.
Yeah.
The other thing...
Arsenates.
I'm sorry?
Arsenates.
I heard all about alligators and all of that stuff, and I've got the pictures. I'm an expert now. One thing, though, that I would also like Mike to share with you is the information he just gave me today on, what's it called, vitreous clay pipes.
Yes.
And I always thought it was a bad thing.
No, he's saying that's good quality material for us
It's
to have
really
in the
good.
ground.
It could last up to 300 years.
See, at least. But it should go 120. Really. The only reason it's not going 120 is if it hasn't been compacted, and then it's going to get crushed and the bottom will fall out. But it's inert. It doesn't mind sulfuric acid. It's designed for sanitary systems.
Excellent.
So thank you. I'm thrilled to be the bearer of good news, even though I didn't do the work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, a motion to accept that report. Councillor Smith, Councillor Wires, all those in favor. Thank you very much. That was a great report, Michael. We'll expect professional advice on the decisions we make, but we're still out there looking for government money to share with the big ones, which we promised. Okay.